Hey there everybody and welcome back to another Blender tutorial where today we are going to be rating things, and it's been a hot minute since I've recorded my last tutorial, so this one's going to be 2.5 out of 5 stars, or maybe this toilet paper roll's like 4 out of 5 stars, hence why I keep it so close to the desk. The squirrel, 4.5 out of 5, you get the gist. So we're going to be talking about how to make these nice little rating animations that are super slick. They're going to make any movie review channel skyrocket through the roof because they're already all low production value. And yeah, let's talk about how to make some ratings. It's not procedural, but it does look good. So here's an example of the blend we're going to be making, and then like having it show up on screens, just a bit of compositing with the edge wipe and stuff like this. So question is, how do we model a star? How do we make the material look nice? And how do we make both a golden, kind of like a glassy ice to be an empty star, and a half star material? Okay, we'll talk about all that right now. Okay, I'm using Blender version 2.92, which is no surprise, I say that every time. Use whatever version of Blender you want. First obstacle, how do we model a star? Which seems like a simple shape, but it's like, there's no like primitive for it. Like, do you have to model every poly? That would be a bit complicated, right? There has to be a trick, and there is. What I would recommend is obliterate that default cube, add in a circle, and I know what you're thinking, circle? What? Believe me, take a circle, you take the number of vertices, in other words, the resolution of it, and we're gonna bring it very, very low to 5, which is gonna make a pentagon. This is just the number of vertices. Pentagon. By the way, if you added a circle and you can't see those vertices thing, trick I learned, F9 brings it back and you can edit it until you've done an edit on the object. Okay, pentagon. How do we get a star out of it? Well, a star is kind of like 5 points and we want each point to be on. What we do is we take this, we subdivide, which is going to add a vertex on each edge, so it's taking each edge and dividing it into 2, it's bisecting it. You take these new vertices, so all the non-pentagon vertices, so it's kind of like a pentagon inside the pentagon, and you scale them down. And that's how you make a star. I know, genius. I thought it was pretty clever when I came up with it myself. So here we have the outline for a star. We need to make it look 3D. We need to make it look good. So select everything, E for extrude on the Z axis. And then I'm just going to add in a loop cut across the middle. So this is the easiest way I've found to model a star. You add the loop cut so that when we select everything else, I guess it'd be easier to select this loop cut and then Control I to invert. When we select everything else, we could just scale it down, but only on everything except the Z axis. So you scale and then Shift Z. It's gonna let you like pinch these. So we type in 0. So we basically just closed the holes on the top and bottom. By the way, we do have like 5 vertices all overlapping on the same thing here. So always run a merge by distance. That's gonna get rid of 18 vertices, I guess. But you can see this is how we get the shape for a star, which would otherwise be pretty complicated to model exactly correctly, right? You need to do some rotation and whatever. Let's make it look better. So first of all, object origin on the geometry. So the origin's now centered, so we can center the star, bring it back down. I'm gonna make a couple modifications. The first modification is I don't want it to be a thick boy star, but you could keep it if you, I mean, thick is beautiful, do whatever you want. I'm gonna make a skinny star. The main thing I want to do to this, other than thinning it a bit, is I want to make it a bit smoother. But the issue is if I was to add in something like a subdivision surface, you're like, oh, yeah, I mean, it's smoother, but like, the fuck? It's not what we want. The issue here is that the subdivision surface is averaging our face normals, blah, 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 blah. Because we don't have that much geometry to begin with, the smoothing is ridiculous. So what we actually need to do is I'm just going to set this to simple. And what this does is it subdivides it without the smoothing. And then I'm going to add in a subdivision surface. So you can see this kind of gives a bad, but kind of a sharper result. At first you do a simple subsurf, and then you do the smoothing subsurf. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to add a bit more simple divisions. Make sure your render and viewport are the same, or render is higher than viewport, so that the render looks the same. First, we subdivided a lot, so it kind of looks like, I wonder if it will show. No, it kind of shows the smoothed out faces if you do this. First, it subdivides a lot, then we do the smoothing, and I'm going to do 2 iterations. So you can see that made the corners a bit rounder, and it also smoothed these kind of ridges and valleys, so shade smooth. And that's a good looking star. You could add more to it, you could do whatever, but in essence, I'm happy with it. And by the way, since this is all a modifier-based effect, if at any point you just kind of want to alter the kind of shape of the star, you can do that super easily and get a more nice looking one. That looks better. Okay, cool. Now let's talk about how to make the materials for this thing. By the way, we should give it a name, a good little save name. Call it People Who Join My Patreon Are All Stars. They are. Hey now. Patreon, the bun's going to be there. How do we make the materials? We need a golden material that's glowing, a icy, empty star material, and a half material. Well, let's go to the shading workspace and make all three. I'm thinking, let's start with the golden material since it's the easiest. To do this, I'm going to make a material, call it Golden Boy. And for this, because I want it to be nice and renders smoothly and all this, I'm considering using Cycles, but first let's try Eevee. I haven't done this before, and if it doesn't look good, we'll go back to Cycles. But first of all, HDRI environment, I'm going to load one, just so we have some stuff to reflect for the icy stuff. So HDRI, just pick an HDRI, whichever one you want. I don't think it matters too much for this one. And I'm just going to go to Film, Transparent, now it's invisible. Okay, otherwise you would see it. So, invisible. Okay, we also don't want this light. We don't need that. So from the top view, let's start with our Golden Boy material. How do we want to do this? Well, I'm going to take the base color. I'm going to make it kind of a golden-y material. By the way, this is something we'd want to separate into an RGB because we're going to be using this color again to make it glow in the emission. But we do that. We make it metallic since it's golden. Fine, you could lower the roughness a bit. I don't know. But most importantly, you also connect this color, the same color, to the emission, which we can make stronger, and we can make it bloom, which will make it look very cool and golden. And at this point, you can mess with the roughness and stuff. Not too important. So there you go. That's the golden star. Now, what I'm more concerned about, I'm going to make a duplicate, is the icy star. Ice Boy star. Because that's going to rely on making it glassy and transmissive, and Eevee isn't too good at that. So for this one, so I've clicked this button. I'm trying to go back. Yeah, I've clicked this button so that when I make a change to one, it doesn't like change both of these. So you click this, and now you can see these are separate materials. This is going to be our Icy Boy. And let's try this out. So it's not metallic. Let's bring the roughness back up. I'm basically just undoing everything we've done before. For the color, I'm going to go back to whatever the default is. So Control-C, Control-V. Basically, the way you make an icy material, you take the transmission, you bring it up. And this is why I'm kind of concerned about Eevee, because it doesn't look too hot. So this is what it looks like in Cycles. You can really see the nice quality of that ice. Here's what it looks like in Eevee. You could try screen space reflections, which don't seem to be doing anything. There are ways to get around this, but I guess we're going to be using Cycles, which is a shame because Cycles doesn't have bloom, so we're going to have to do that in post. But either way, Icy Boy material, you bring up the transmission, and how reflective you want that ice to be is dependent on the roughness. I kind of like the way it looks right now, where it's almost like a frosted glass. Okay? So we have one material, we have another, and now finally, we just need to make both of them on the same star, which is almost the easiest, because you just kind of reuse stuff that... Either way, so again, we unlink this, so now it's its own material. We can call this half and half, and it's going to be half and half. So we already have the golden part of it. Let's bring in the icy part. So I just take this BSDF from the Icy Boy material. I bring it here. I paste it. And now the way you want to think about this is one BSDF block. So, oh, by the way, if you've noticed I don't have a grid in the background, that's just because I'm working on it. Don't worry about it. It's not important. So this is going to be one. What an explanation. That's one material. This is another. We need a mix between them. Golden ice. The way we do that is we Control-Shift, right-click, drag, I think, if you have Node Wrangler, or just add in a mix shader node. Just mix both of these, and what we want is a way to mix it so one part's ice and one part's gold. So you can see we're transitioning between the two of these. By the way, Node Preview add-on, super dank, link in the description, boys. Not too important. So what we need to do is we need to mix these, but by its X location. So the left half on X 0 to 0.5 is 1. You get the point. To make this mask, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a texture. Yes, we're going to do all this procedurally. I'm going to take generated coordinates, because this creates the bounding box around the thing. Use generated coordinates so that we can separate by X, Y, Z, where X is this left to right gradient, Y is this up to down gradient, and then Z is this, vertical gradient. Of course, since we want to separate by left to right, we're going to be using the x gradient, so you can see that right here. You take a math node, we want to say everything to the left of halfway, which is 0.5, it goes from 0 to 1. Everything to the left of 0.5, make it black, otherwise white, which is exactly greater than. If it's greater than 0.5, make it white. If it's, make it black, and you can visually see what this is doing. So it's sweeping across this gradient, which sweeps across the mesh. So 0.5 is halfway in between. So if we take this and connect it to the factor, view the factor, boom, we've done it. Slight issue, it's inverted. You could either fix that by flipping these green sockets, or you could fix it by making this a less than instead of a greater than. But you can see the cool thing about doing this in cycles rather than Eevee, even though Eevee has the nice bloom and everything, so cycles looks better. But also, since we have kind of both materials on this material, both BSDFs more accurately, you can see that inside the ice, there's some of this light kind of reflecting in there, which is super nice. Okay, long story short, we have 3 stars. The geometry is the same. What makes them different is the material. So now let's make an animation. Let's say we want to rate something like, what's 2.5 out of 5? I feel like recently I saw this movie called like Finding You. It's a romance movie about Ireland. It warmed my heart. It's a bit cringe though. That's a 2.5 out of 5 movie, although the people I went with thought it was a 1. I'm not here to, talk about how right they were about that. But either way, let's give something 2.5 out of 5 stars. Finding You, the movie. I'm going to take a star. I'm going to duplicate it on the x-axis, Shift-D on x. I'm going to move it 2 units, I guess. Shift-D, x2, Shift-D, x2. So I'm going to be using a out of 5 rating system, but you could equally use this for, something else, like a out of 10 rating system. 2.5 means gold. Gold, this one should be half. So in the material, we switched this from Golden Boy, so this is what's in the material slot. We'll make it a half and half. These two are going to be icy, so this one's icy, and if you want a bit of a shortcut, which is not very useful for this, you can select this, select the one you want it to be the material of, if that makes sense. Control L to link the material. That's going to make it icy. But I do think, I'm not sure about this, if we change this, does it change the other? No. So it just kind of copies it over. Either way, 2.5 out of 5. Now, how do we do the animation? Good question. I'm going to make it a 60 frame long animation. I want it to be 30 frames per second, since that's pretty much everything I do. And what we want it to do is kind of like rotate one by one by one. So you rotate on the y-axis, but not all of them together, right? We want individual origins, so each one rotates individually. So on frame 1, keyframe the rotation. On frame 30, it's going to take 1 second at 30 frames per second, RY, right? 360. So each one has to do a full rotation. Before we make this look more interesting, let's kind of fix this rotation. It's kind of like Bezier interpolation, and you can make it like, I don't know. You can make it interesting with this bounce, so it does something like that. Or you could do, I don't know what back does. That's actually pretty interesting, to be honest. That's not what I was going to recommend, but maybe we'll stick with that, actually. What I was going to say is we modify the Bezier interpolation, but I kind of like the look of this. Let's mess with this a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm still going to modify this. I'm going to go to the graph editor. So we are using, by the way, cool tip, if you select everything, A, and then hit period key, puts all of this in here. So you can see the back interpolation kind of overcorrects and then goes back down. What I was going to do is I was going to go to individual origins and kind of scale these on the x-axis by 2, but I guess back interpolation doesn't let you do that. So you could either use back. What I'm going to use is Bezier, original plane. So Bezier, it gives us these handles, A, period, to zoom in. When you select individual origins is the point. So you can see, here's the animation, kind of boring. You scale this on the x-axis by 2. Important that you do this with individual origins, otherwise it scales the whole graph. It makes it kind of a sharper curve. And you can see it makes it a sharper animation. So here's the before, boring, and here is, what's redo? Control-Shift-Z. Good to know. And here's after, okay? So just a bit smoother. Now in the timeline, I'm just going to take this animation and offset it. So the second star does this on 4 frames, so I'm just moving it. Third star starts 8 frames later, so each one's delayed by 4 frames. So you can see this one's going to rotate, then this one, then this one. So they're delayed, which is going to look good when we do like an edge wipe or something like this. This one starts at 12, and this one starts at 16. And it's nice because all this is going to fit into our 60 frame thing. And then we freeze frame the last one. And you can see, boom, we have a rating system, which is pretty cool. And it looks even better when you do it like this. you enable some motion blur, and you render this with a transparent background because you want to overlay this on footage. So make sure you render this as a PNG sequence. But in essence, you've done the animation, and if at this point you want a different rating, like 3.5 out of whatever stars, now that you have the blend, which again, link in the description, not link, Patreon link in the description, whatever, either way. Now that we've set this up, if you want 3.5 out of 5, you make this one golden, and you make this one half and half. So it's like modular in that sense. But I'm gonna do 2.5 out of 5. So you render this, fine, you put it on top of your footage. What is it that's gonna make it look good? One or two things. First one, we're not actually gonna do here, which is the edge wipe. We're gonna have it kind of like transition on screen super nicely. That you could just do in whatever program you use. I'm just centering the camera above. You could just do that in whatever program you use. I'm gonna talk about something different, so let's just render a frame. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. Yeah, that's super nice. What I'm gonna do to make this look a bit cooler, so I'm going into compositing, viewer node, so we can see what we're actually doing. Oh, by the way, if you don't want the background, which we don't, make sure you enable, oh no, we did enable film transparent. I think the issue is actually the reason everything looks gray is because of that thing I was talking about earlier. So it's edit, preferences, viewport, no, not viewport, themes, and then this is off the rails, node editor. This is how I got rid of the grid. You bump up that grid amount. There we go. Now it looks like it's actually transparent. I'm not used to not having the grid there. Either way, you do the thing, whatever. What I recommend is adding in a bit of glare. Because then the bright parts actually have bloom, which they didn't before, because, you know, we don't have EV bloom. So that's how you do it. That's a final correction. Either way, you render this thing out, you slap it on top of your footage. It's a good old time. But at this point, I think I've finished explaining the thing. That's how you rate things, whatever, out of whatever. And speaking of rating things, I'm going to rate Patreon 5 out of 5 stars. What is this on the, I guess I invert the footage. What is this on the right? Is it a list of 700 bad ratings for Finding You? No. And by the way, it's 780. So, no, it's a list of patrons that are supporting this channel and the CG Matter channel. CG Matter is getting a revamp, by the way. Haven't told anybody, but I'm working on a different kind of video. Either way, Patreon exists. Why would you want to join it other than supporting both these channels? Why did 780 people do it? Plus, it's because you get access to every blend I've ever uploaded on Patreon. This one, anything I've uploaded for the last 1 or 2 years, forget how much. You get hundreds of blends. You also get early access to tutorials, so you could watch them before everybody else, assuming that there's no issues with deadlines and all this. I upload most of my tutorials early, so you could watch it a day or two early. Exclusive tutorials that are only available to people on Patreon. Those tend to be more advanced. I recently did one about procedural lightning. I got to figure out what I want to do this week, but that's a thing. Discord access, a bunch of minor stuff like the Patreon newsletter. Patreon exists. Check it out in the description if you care or if you want to support these channels, but at this point you have not, you're nobody's watching at this point. So there's kind of no point. Either way, hopefully you enjoyed the tutorial. Thanks to the patrons. Put you guys in the credits, and that's the essence of it. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.